I never thought this would happen to me. I always considered myself a pretty decent guy. I'm Jake, a 35-year-old husband to my wife Tara, who's 32, and we've been together for nearly a decade. We had what I thought was a solid relationship. You know, the kind that friends look up to. We had a cute little house in a suburb of Denver, a couple of dogs, and we shared a lot of interests, including our love for podcasts. But things started changing a few months ago. Tara, who used to talk to me about everything, suddenly became distant. At first, it was subtle, just a little less time spent together. The late-night Netflix marathons turned into her claiming she was too tired to hang out. The sweet texts during the day dwindled down to a quick "how's work?" Here, the kicker. She started spending more time on her phone, always seeming busy, and it was like I was being slowly phased out of her life. I tried confronting her about it. During dinner, I'd casually mention how it seemed like we were drifting apart, but she'd just brush it off with a flippant, "Oh, come on. I've just been busy with work." I believed her at first, but the nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. All of this heightened my suspicion, especially when she started talking about a new friend she made at work. She seemed really excited about this guy, but hey, I thought it was just a harmless work crush. Then came the day that turned my world upside down. One evening, I got home a bit early from work. I opened the door, and instead of the usual chaotic greeting from my dogs, it was eerily quiet. I called out for Tara, but no answer. I shrugged it off, thinking she was probably in the shower. I went to the living room to relax a little when I noticed her phone charging on the coffee table. I had never gone through her phone, but an intense curiosity took over. Maybe it was that little voice in my head urging me to just check things out. At first, I hesitated. I mean, what kind of husband goes through their wife's phone? But I felt like I was doing what any concerned partner would do, trying to figure out what was going on. I picked it up, and honestly, my heart was pounding in my chest. I felt like I was about to commit a crime. When I unlocked her phone, I was greeted with a plethora of messages, mostly from a guy named Mark. As I read through them, my stomach dropped. They were flirty, suggestive, and downright intimate. They were talking about meeting up, plans for the weekend, and there was even a message that made my blood boil. "I can't wait to feel you again." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. It was like the air had been sucked out of the room. It wasn't just a harmless friendship, it was an affair. I was overcome with a mix of disbelief and rage. I wanted to scream, I wanted to cry, but most of all I wanted to confront her. I was terrified and angry all at once. How could she do this to me? I had been nothing but supportive, yet here she was, exchanging those intimate words with another man. I decided to wait for her to come home. I needed to confront her and find out what the hell was going on. When she finally walked through the door, all smiles and sunshine as if nothing was wrong, my heart was racing. I knew this was it. I was going to get answers. But little did I know that this was just the beginning of a much darker journey for me. Stay tuned for the next part. As Tara stepped into the house, she greeted me with her usual bright smile. The moment felt surreal. Here I was, holding the evidence of her betrayal while she acted as if everything was perfectly fine. I could feel the tension in the air thickening with every passing second. My heart raced as I struggled to find the right words. Did I confront her right away, or did I play it cool for a moment longer? "Hey, babe, you're home early," she chirped, dropping her bag on the floor and heading towards the kitchen. I watched her for a moment, trying to gauge her mood. "Yeah, I had some things to finish up early," I replied, forcing a smile. Inside, I was a whirlwind of emotions, doubt, anger, and heartbreak swirling around like a tempest. I followed her into the kitchen where she was busy pouring herself a glass of wine. "Want one?" she asked, her back still turned to me. I opened my mouth to respond, but no words came out. Instead of answering, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was about to happen. "Actually, I think we need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos inside. She turned around, surprise etched across her face. "Talk? About what?" she asked, feigning innocence. I could see the wheels turning in her mind, probably trying to anticipate what I was about to say. I pulled out my phone, the screen still illuminated with the damning texts. "About Mark," I said, my voice low but firm. I held the phone up, watching her face drain of color. In that moment, I saw a flicker of panic in her eyes, quickly masked by a veneer of defiance. "What are you talking about?" She shot back, her tone turning defensive. I couldn't believe her audacity. I thought she might at least show some remorse, but instead she doubled down. "You're being ridiculous, Jake. That's just a coworker, and those messages are taken out of context." Out of context. I nearly yelled, my anger bubbling to the surface. "Tara, this isn't some harmless friendship. You're talking about meeting up and feeling him again. I found everything right here." I had never seen her look so cornered. She opened her mouth to speak but quickly shut it, clearly realizing she was caught. "Okay, fine, I might have talked to him a bit too much," she finally admitted, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "But it doesn't mean anything. We're just friends." Friends. I felt like I was in a bizarre alternate reality. "Friends don't exchange those kinds of messages, Tara. You're cheating on me." I felt my voice crack, the weight of betrayal pressing down hard on my chest. Her demeanor shifted. "You're overreacting. You don't understand what it's like at work. Mark gets me. He listens to me." She had the nerve to look offended. My anger morphed into pure disbelief. "So what? You just find someone else to confide in. That's your solution." She crossed her arms, her expression turning defiant. "This is typical, Jake. You always jump to conclusions. What about you? You don't even notice when I'm stressed. You're so focused on work that you've forgotten about me." The accusation hit me hard, but I couldn't let her flip the narrative. "This isn't about me right now. This is about you betraying our marriage. You're the one who made that choice." The fight continued, escalating until we were both shouting, the words flying back and forth like arrows. It felt like every emotion I had bottled up inside me over the past months came pouring out. I felt anger, sadness, and a deep sense of betrayal all mixed together. I had never seen her like this before, claiming victimhood while blatantly lying about what was happening. As the confrontation played out, I realized that Tara wasn't going to accept responsibility. There was no way she was going to admit what she did was wrong without a fight. I was left drained and on the verge of despair as the evening wore on. It was clear that our marriage was hanging by a thread, unraveling right before my eyes. After that explosive night, I took a step back to gather my thoughts. I knew I needed a plan, something to take back control of my life. I couldn't just sit back and let her walk all over me. I felt betrayed, yes, but I also felt a fire ignite within me. I was done being the passive husband. I started contemplating my next steps, wondering how I could expose the truth about Tara and her affair, not just to her but to the world. I could feel the gears turning in my mind, plotting out a course of action that would ultimately let me regain my confidence while bringing Tara to justice for her betrayal. If she wanted to play games, then I would show her just how far I was willing to go. Let's see what happens next. The days following our confrontation felt like an emotional roller coaster. Tara and I walked on eggshells around each other, our once warm home now a battlefield filled with unresolved tension. She put on a facade of normalcy, acting as if everything was fine, and I did my best to mirror that image. But inside, I was boiling. I spent hours analyzing every detail, replaying our arguments, and trying to understand how I got to this point. I spent more time on my phone, reading about infidelity, relationships, and how to deal with betrayal. I found countless stories from people who had experienced similar situations, and it gave me a mix of comfort and resolve. I wasn't alone, and I didn't have to just accept what was happening. The idea of revenge began to manifest in my mind, but it wasn't just about hurting Tara. It was about taking back control of my narrative. I needed to expose the truth, and that's when the idea hit me. I could start my own podcast. Tara had been a fan of podcasts for years, particularly those where real-life stories of betrayal were shared. She loved the drama and the intrigue, often discussing episodes with her friends. This was my chance to turn the tables. I could start a podcast that shared my side of the story, illuminating the truth about her affair while keeping it anonymous. I spent the next few days researching how to start a podcast. I gathered equipment, learned about audio editing, and scripted out my first few episodes. It was liberating to have a creative outlet, a way to channel the pain and anger I felt. I planned to record my first episode that would be titled Finding Out. My Wife's affair. When I finally sat down to record, my heart raced with a mix of excitement and fear. I didn't know how Tara would react once she found out, but I was ready to share my truth. I spoke candidly into the microphone about our relationship, the signs I missed, the moment I discovered her betrayal, and the emotional turmoil that followed. I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders with each word as I poured my heart out. Once the episode was finished, I felt an adrenaline rush. I edited it carefully, adding some music and sound bites to enhance the storytelling. I created a cover image for the podcast, making sure to keep my identity hidden while branding it as a show about overcoming betrayal. Finally, I uploaded it to various podcast platforms and shared it online, feeling a sense of liberation wash over me. The next morning, I woke up to notifications lighting up my phone. My episode had gained traction, and people were reaching out, commenting on my story, sharing their experiences, and offering support. It felt incredible to connect with others who understood my pain, and I realized that I was not just sharing my story. I was helping others process their own heartbreak. As the days turned into weeks, I continued to record episodes, detailing my journey, my feelings, and what I was doing to reclaim my life. I talked about the emotional roller coaster I was on, the moments of doubt, and the strength I was finding through this experience. I even discussed the importance of self-care and seeking therapy, which I had started to pursue for myself. Meanwhile, Tara remained oblivious about my podcast. I had kept it a secret from her, and I was loving every minute of it. I could see that she was still trying to maintain her facade. She would mention how much she enjoyed listening to various podcasts, casually mentioning her favorites. Each time she did, I couldn't help but feel a sense of irony wash over me. The woman who had betrayed me was blissfully ignorant of my plan to expose her, but I knew that keeping this secret would eventually lead to a confrontation. The podcast was gaining popularity, and I started to receive requests for live Q&A sessions. My followers wanted to hear more about my story and how I was coping. I knew it was only a matter of time before Tara found out. One evening she came home and seemed a bit off. I could tell she had something on her mind. After dinner, while we sat in the living room, she suddenly turned to me with an eyebrow raised. "You've been acting really weird lately. Are you hiding something from me?" My heart raced, but I kept my face neutral. "What do you mean?" I replied, pretending to be oblivious. She shrugged, crossing her arms defensively. "I don't know, Jake. You just seem distant, almost like you're living a double life." Her words twisted the knife deeper. I was living a double life, but not in the way she thought. I was fighting back, reclaiming my narrative, and she had no idea. "I've just been focusing on work and trying to stay busy," I replied, hoping to deflect her suspicions. But I knew the truth wouldn't stay hidden forever. My podcast was gaining traction, and I could feel the tension building, a storm brewing beneath the surface. Soon enough, the truth would come out, and I had to be ready for the fallout. The anticipation of that confrontation filled me with a mix of dread and excitement. I was ready to face the music and expose the reality of our marriage. It was only a matter of time before Tara would listen to my podcast and everything would change. What would happen next? Stay tuned. As the weeks rolled by, I was caught in a delicate dance with Tara. My podcast continued to gain momentum, drawing in listeners who resonated with my story of betrayal and healing. It became a therapeutic release for me, a way to process the pain while connecting with others who had experienced similar heartbreak. I was gaining strength, and every episode I recorded made me feel more in control of my life. But with every passing day, I knew the inevitable confrontation loomed closer. Tara had been acting suspiciously, a mix of curiosity and concern growing in her demeanor. I could sense that she was starting to put the pieces together, especially as she overheard snippets of my phone conversations or caught me quietly editing my latest episode late at night. One evening, she came home in a particularly agitated state. I could tell something was bothering her, and when I asked, she brushed it off, claiming work had been stressful. But I knew better. It was the same energy she had when she confronted me about being distant a few weeks prior. Later that night, as we sat on opposite ends of the couch, I felt the tension crackling between us. Tara was scrolling through her phone, and I could feel her glancing over at me every few minutes, her expression a mix of worry and determination. The air felt thick with unspoken words, and I knew something was about to give. Finally, she broke the silence. "Can we talk about something?" she asked, her voice shaky. My heart raced, knowing full well what was coming. "Sure," I replied, doing my best to mask my own anxiety. "Jake, I've been hearing things. People have been talking about a podcast, and I heard your name mentioned," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I felt my stomach drop. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to feign ignorance. "People are saying it's about relationships." "About infidelity," she continued, her eyes narrowing. "Is it true? Are you doing this?" A million thoughts raced through my mind. I could come clean, tell her the truth, or I could let her unravel it herself. "I don't know what you're talking about," I replied, trying to keep my tone casual. Tara's expression shifted from curiosity to anger. "Don't lie to me. I know you're hiding something. Just tell me the truth." The tension was palpable, and I could see the storm brewing in her eyes. "Okay, fine. What do you want me to say? You're the one who decided to cheat on me." My voice rose, fueled by the months of pent-up anger and betrayal. Her face flushed, and she shot back. "You think this is all my fault? You never paid attention to me. I was lonely." The accusation stung, but I stood my ground. "So cheating is your solution? You think that's justified?" We went back and forth, both of us raising our voices, emotions flaring up like wildfire. I could feel the walls closing in, and Tara's anger morphed into desperation. "Just tell me if it's true. If you've been talking about me on this podcast, I deserve to know." I took a deep breath, weighing my options. It was now or never. "Yes, I've been talking about you on my podcast. I'm sharing my side of the story," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos within. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "You're airing our dirty laundry for the world to hear. How could you do this?" "Easily," I replied, feeling a surge of empowerment. "You made a choice to betray me, and I'm choosing to take back control. You didn't think about how your actions would affect me, did you?" Tara's expression shifted again, this time to one of realization. The weight of her betrayal hung heavily in the air, and for the first time I could see the cracks in her facade. "You're ruining our lives," she said, her voice trembling. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you started texting Mark." I shot back, feeling the anger bubbling to the surface once more. Tara sank onto the couch, her face buried in her hands. The fight seemed to drain out of her, replaced by a sense of defeat. "What do you want from me, Jake?" she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I want honesty," I said, my voice softer now. "I want you to understand how deeply you hurt me. I want you to realize the gravity of your choices." We sat in silence, the weight of our confrontation settling between us. I could see the realization dawning on her face. The truth was out, and there was no going back. After a long pause, Tara looked up at me, her eyes red and puffy. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I messed up. I didn't think about how my actions would affect you, our life together. I was selfish." Hearing her apologize brought a mix of relief and anger. I wanted to feel vindicated, but the pain of her betrayal still stung. "It's too late for apologies, Tara. You've shattered my trust," I said, my heart still heavy with emotion. That night we talked until the early hours about everything: the affair, our relationship, and what our future might hold. It was a raw and painful conversation, but I knew it was necessary if we were going to move forward, whether together or apart. I had exposed the truth, and while it wasn't easy, it was a step toward healing. The road ahead wouldn't be smooth, but I was ready to face whatever came next. I was reclaiming my narrative, and in doing so, I was finding my strength again. As we lay in bed that night, the silence between us felt different. It was filled with uncertainty, yes, but there was also a flicker of hope. We both knew the journey ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of clarity. What lay ahead would shape our lives, but I was determined to navigate through it with honesty and integrity. Stay tuned for the next part. The days following our emotional confrontation felt like a fragile truce between Tara and me. We had laid everything on the table, confronting the wounds that had festered between us. While the atmosphere in our home had shifted slightly, it was clear that things were far from normal. Trust, once the bedrock of our relationship, was now a fragile glass that could shatter at any moment. Tara seemed genuinely remorseful, making efforts to show me she was committed to fixing our relationship. She began spending more time at home, putting in the effort to reconnect with me. We had long conversations late into the night, sharing our feelings, fears, and hopes. It was exhausting yet necessary, like scaling a mountain of pain together. Despite her efforts, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that lingered in the back of my mind. Each time I saw her pick up her phone, a knot would form in my stomach. I knew she was still in contact with Mark. There was no way she could just cut that off without some struggle. Part of me wanted her to come clean about every detail, to share how she could have even entertained the idea of being with someone else. But I also understood that healing would take time, and trust wouldn't be rebuilt overnight. As for my podcast, it continued to gain popularity. With every episode I released, more listeners reached out to share their own stories of infidelity and heartbreak. I felt like I was building a community, creating a space where people could express their pain and find support. But the more I shared, the more I realized I was also processing my own emotions in real time. Then came the day that would change everything again. I had just finished recording an episode discussing the importance of boundaries and trust in a relationship. I was feeling a mix of empowerment and vulnerability when I received a DM on social media from one of my listeners. It was a woman named Sarah who wanted to share her own story. As we chatted through messages, she revealed that she was familiar with Tara and Mark's relationship. My heart sank as I read her words. She explained that she had been friends with Tara through mutual connections and had picked up on the whispers about their affair long before I did. "I didn't want to say anything before, but I thought you should know," she wrote. I was torn. On one hand, I appreciated her honesty, but on the other, I felt betrayed all over again. How long had Tara been lying to me? How many people knew about her affair before I did? I couldn't shake the feeling that I had been the last to know, and that realization gnawed at my confidence. That evening, I confronted Tara once more. "Did you tell anyone about your affair?" I asked, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside of me. She looked confused at first. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "A listener reached out to me. She mentioned that she knew about your relationship with Mark before I did. Why didn't you tell me?" Tara's face fell, and for a moment I thought I saw genuine regret. "I was going to. I just didn't know how to tell you," she said, her voice trembling. "I didn't want to hurt you more than I already have." "But you're still hiding things, Tara," I shot back, feeling the anger bubbling over. "How can I trust you if you're still not being fully honest with me? I'm feeling like I'm living in a house of lies." Her eyes widened and tears welled up again. "I'm sorry, I'll do better, I promise. I didn't think you'd want to hear all the gossip." "Gossip?" I scoffed. "This isn't just gossip, this is my life, my marriage. You can't just brush it off like it doesn't matter." Realizing that I was spiraling, I took a step back and tried to compose myself. I needed to approach this differently. "I need you to be completely transparent with me. I need you to show me that you're committed to rebuilding what we had." Tara nodded, a flicker of determination in her eyes. "I will, Jake. I swear. I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust back." After that heated conversation, I decided to channel my feelings into my podcast again. I recorded an episode discussing the complexities of trust and the importance of honesty in relationships. I shared my experiences candidly, allowing listeners a glimpse into the tumultuous emotions I was wrestling with. The response was overwhelming. Listeners resonated with my struggles, and many reached out with their own stories of rebuilding trust after betrayal. It felt cathartic to express my pain, and I realized that I was not alone in navigating these rough waters. But even as I poured my heart out to my audience, I knew that my relationship with Tara was still hanging by a thread. We had a long way to go, and I understood that rebuilding trust would require consistent effort from both of us. Months passed, and Tara continued to make strides to show me she was serious about repairing our relationship. But just as I began to think that things might normalize, I received another message that rocked me to my core. It was from Mark. I stared at my phone, frozen, unsure of what to do. The message read, "Hey, Jake, I think we need to talk about Tara." My heart raced, a mix of anxiety and anger flooding my system. Why was he reaching out to me now? What did he want? This was the moment I had dreaded since the beginning, and I could feel the walls closing in on me once more. I took a deep breath, knowing that I couldn't back down now. This was my chance to confront the man who had inserted himself into my life and shattered my marriage. I needed to know what he would say, and I had to be ready for whatever fallout would come next. This was it, the moment of truth. Stay tuned for the final part. I stared at the message from Mark, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. I took a moment to gather my thoughts and remind myself of everything I had been through. I had endured betrayal, heartbreak, and the slow process of rebuilding trust with Tara. Now here was Mark, the very man who had disrupted my life, reaching out to discuss the one thing I was determined to move past. With a mix of anger and determination, I typed back, "What do you want to talk about, Mark?" I hit send and waited, my mind racing with possibilities. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was going to be a pivotal moment, one that could either further complicate my relationship or finally provide some clarity. Responded quickly. "I think you deserve to know the truth about what happened between Tara and me. Can we meet?" I felt the walls closing in again, but I knew I had to face this head on. I texted back, "Fine, let's meet." We agreed on a coffee shop halfway between our homes, and I spent the next few hours grappling with anxiety and anger about the impending conversation. When I arrived at the coffee shop, I spotted Mark sitting at a corner table, looking more nervous than I imagined. He was lean, with disheveled hair and a casual demeanor that made him seem approachable, but I felt no inclination to be friendly. I took a deep breath and sat down across from him, my heart racing. "Let's get straight to the point," I said, cutting through the pleasantries. "What do you want to tell me?" Mark hesitated, searching for the right words. "I owe you an apology, Jake. What happened between Tara and me, it was a mistake. I never intended to hurt you." I felt my blood boil at his words. "A mistake? You think texting her and meeting up is just a mistake? You're delusional." "Look, I know I messed up," he continued, his voice steady despite my anger. "But it was never supposed to go as far as it did. Tara and I were getting close, but I see now that it was wrong. I genuinely thought she was unhappy in her marriage." His words hit me like a punch, and I fought to keep my composure. "So you thought you'd swoop in and be her shoulder to cry on? What kind of guy does that?" "I'm not making excuses," Mark replied, his tone shifting to one of sincerity. "I just wanted you to know that I didn't take anything from you intentionally. I never wanted to hurt you or your family." As I listened, I felt a mix of emotions swirling inside me, anger, betrayal, and a strange sense of relief. I realized that Mark was, in a way, just as human as I was. We both had our flaws, and while his actions were reprehensible, I didn't want to let that define me. I took a deep breath and said, "You need to understand that what you did has lasting impacts. I'm working hard to fix my marriage, and your involvement only made things more complicated. Tara and I are trying to rebuild, and I need you to stay out of it." "I get it. I promise I won't contact her again," he said, his voice earnest. "I just wanted you to know that I regret everything. I see how much you care for her, and I hope you can find a way to move past this." I nodded slowly, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. The conversation had been difficult, but it had also been necessary. I couldn't change the past, but I could choose how I wanted to move forward. "I appreciate you saying that, but trust will take time. Don't think for a second that I'll forget what happened." We exchanged a few more words before I stood up to leave. As I walked out of the coffee shop, I felt a mix of emotions wash over me. Confronting Mark had provided me with a sense of closure. I had stood up for myself and my marriage, and I felt empowered. When I returned home, Tara was waiting for me. I could see the worry etched on her face as I walked in. "How did it go?" she asked, her voice laced with anxiety. "It was hard," I replied, trying to gauge her reaction, "but I think I got some clarity." I recounted the conversation, watching her expression shift as I spoke. She listened intently, her eyes filled with remorse and concern. "I'm glad you confronted him," she said softly. "I just want you to know that I'm serious about making things right between us. I want to earn your trust back." I appreciated her sincerity, but I also knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. "It's going to take time." Tara, I said, my voice steady. We have a lot of work to do. Trust isn't something that can be repaired overnight. In the weeks that followed, we committed ourselves to the arduous task of rebuilding our relationship. We sought couples therapy, where we could delve deeper into the underlying issues that had led to Tara's infidelity. It was uncomfortable, revealing, and at times painful, but it was also necessary. We learned to communicate openly, to express our needs and fears without judgment. We both worked hard to foster a sense of safety and security in our relationship. I found solace in my podcast, using it as a tool to share our journey with others while staying anonymous. As the months passed, I could feel the cracks in our relationship slowly healing. Tara was making a concerted effort to show me her commitment, and I was learning to trust again, little by little. We began to rediscover the joy we once had, finding laughter and connection amidst the chaos. Ultimately, I realized that while I had faced a devastating betrayal, it had also given me a new perspective on love and resilience. Life is unpredictable, and relationships require constant effort and honesty. I knew that our journey was far from over, but I was committed to walking it together, armed with the lessons we had learned through our struggles. Through everything, I emerged stronger and more aware of my own worth. I had battled the storm of betrayal and come out on the other side, ready to embrace whatever life had in store. And so, with hope in my heart and a renewed sense of purpose, I took the next step forward, ready to shape my own narrative from here on out.